And now everybody wants to know is how do we crack MDI, because it's going to be focused only on the personal interview and current affairs. I think Delhi people love asking questions with respect to politics and current affairs, what's happening in and around with the government. Okay, so hi everyone, welcome on board to Cat King. This is Anisha here, and today I have these three beautiful people from MDI Gurgaon with me. So, welcome to the Cat King's channel, Apurvraj, Utkarsh, and Deblina.
Anisha, thank you.
Hi.
Great. So, tell us about your MDI Gurgaon interview experience. Like, the calls have recently come out, and now everybody wants to know is how do we crack MDI, because it's going to be focused only on the personal interview.
Yeah. Yes, right.
So why don't you share with us, Apurvraj, and each one of you with respect to what's your profile and what kind of questions were you asked? I'm sure that's going to be helpful for people who are preparing for their interviews.
Sure. So I'll start. So I'm an engineer, like most of the aspirants. I'm an electronics engineer, and I'm from Mumbai University. And I worked for about 46 months in Accenture. So regarding my interview, it was completely online, just as this year it's going to be. And we just had a PI process. It was conducted via Zoom. And it was a common process for all the three programs, the PGP, PGP HRM, and PGP IT. And regarding my interview process, I would say that you should go with a strong introduction. For example, I'm a basketball player. I played basketball for Maharashtra, so I mentioned it in my interview. And it becomes a highlight, it becomes a sort of a talking point. And I was asked questions on that. And since I had a high work ex, so obviously I was questioned more on my work ex and very little on my undergrad. I was also asked about which specialization I would choose, and I had to justify the same. And I had to answer very basic questions regarding my chosen specialization. And I had referred to MDI's compendiums, so it's really helpful in this case. And since I had also mentioned an innovation challenge that I had won while I was working, so I was asked questions regarding that, and I was asked that why is there a lack of innovation in workspace. So that's why it's really important that what points you want to highlight, you mention those points because you can steer the interview in that direction. And since I worked in IT, I was asked some technical questions like what's Bootstrap and what's Web 3.0. So those questions are to be expected. And I think some questions we are asked just to rattle the students. So I was asked that what would I do if I wasn't selected this time? And I was asked that since I have such a high work ex, why am I going for the full 2-year program and not for the executive one? So I just think that candidates should not be disheartened when they hear this question. It does not mean that you have been rejected. It is just to ensure that they can assess, you can think on your feet, and just to probe you and see if you have any clarity.
I think the objective there is to make sure that you stick to your goal of why MBA. It's like beating around the bush and getting you to the same answer. Why MBA? Get back on track. That's lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
So didn't they? I would also probably ask this to you, Apurvraj. You have 46 months of experience. Why not do the executive? I'll give you like a spot offer. So I'm sure they would want to. What did you answer in that case?
So I said that I wanted to experience whole 2 years of my campus life. I wanted to go for a much more holistic program instead of just going for 1 year. So, and I also wanted to, have a change my domain. So that is what I was looking for. So I thought that a 2-year MBA will be much more beneficial. It will offer me a broader perspective. And that is why I chose to go for the flagship 2-year MBA.
Lovely.
program.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Deblina, how about you? What was your kind of interview like? Did they ask you some offbeat questions?
So my interview was very opinionated based. So it was more like a conversation, which I feel is one of the important things that you should keep in mind, is to have a good impression. Also make sure that you drive the interview into a conversation. So they basically started with a basic introduction and why I wanted to MBA. So in these two questions, I focused more on my work ex because I have about 2 years of work ex. I've worked with Tata Consultancy Services, and so I clearly did not remember much of my undergraduate. So I focused more on there. That is also certain things that you should drop because they pinpoint and pick up on certain words and they ask you questions on that. So after that, they asked me about since I was having work from home in TCS, they asked me the advantages and the disadvantages of working from home. And they also asked me since I was an electronics engineer, so they asked me why did I go to TCS? Because TCS was a software company. So they asked me that difference as well. Then they asked me what is the difference between communication and engineering and in management. And then they threw me a tricky question. So at that time, most of the states were having a lockdown, but West Bengal did not. And I'm from Calcutta. So West Bengal did not have lockdown because we were having elections. So they asked me, do you think, is this the reason why West Bengal is not declaring a lockdown? So yes, we should be ready for such tricky questions as well because they are supposed to throw us off track. So they also want to see how you deal with these. They did ask me a few GK questions like what are the vaccines that were going on because at that time they were being rolled out. And at the end, they asked me what are the two most important competencies according to me that I want to acquire from management. So usually at the end, they do leave certain questions or a question like, do you have anything to ask? So I feel these questions at the end is very important because you can actually give a very good answer and leave a lasting impression. So, and that is what will stay in their mind. So this is more or less what happened in my interview. And one small tip would be, in case you don't know the answer, which happens in a lot of cases, is not to just say, I don't know, but rather to just apologize or maybe take a minute and think. But if you think you cannot think about it in an answer, just say, I cannot recollect at the moment. So, this is more or less what I have to say about my interview.
Okay, that's lovely. How about you, Utkarsh? Like, when you come with a engineering background and the kind of questions, anything off track or something which you think is very essential for every aspirant to be ready for?
I believe so. My interview was very comprehensive. It lasted for about 30 to 40 minutes. And it started off with my introduction. And because I had a computer science background, they asked me questions regarding big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and my vision for the relevance of these technologies 50 years from now. So that's what they were interested in. They were not asking any technical questions as then, but they were more interested about my work experience and how do I see IT benefiting the world. Rather than that, it was more of a discussion about the current affairs then. I told them, as Devlina mentioned, that they pick points from what you answer. So I told them that during BTech, my major subject was cybersecurity and forensics. So there was a lot of discussion that went around cybersecurity policies, cryptocurrencies, etc., Indian vaccine diplomacy. So it was more of a discussion kind of thing. But yeah, the interview went a bit off track, of course, when they started asking me GK questions. And I did not know the answers to few of them. But yeah, you should know how to tackle those questions. So I was asked entirely about our constitution, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policies, etc. And basically the questions which you would have studied in your 9th or 10th class in your history and civics books. But yeah, I could recollect a few answers and then I answered there. So I believe the key to give a good interview is to always stay confident. Have to give very structured answers, articulate them well, and just to have a conversation rather than, imagine yourself to be in a professional space. You are a professional there, and the person in front of you is also professional. So it should not be a Q&A round. It should be a discussion. Rather than that, I would say that prepare yourself with ethical dilemma questions. I was asked an ethical dilemma question. They asked me that, if you are given an offer from MBI to work in Coca-Cola, then would you accept it in a sales and marketing role? Says like, yes, I would accept it. But then they say that, the beverage Coca-Cola is not healthy. So, questions like these. And I know a few candidates who were asked the same questions on the lines of L'Oreal, that what do you think about beauty products, etc. So you should prepare yourself with such ethical dilemma questions as well.
Okay, that's lovely. That's interesting. So, that if I summarize, you need to know yourself very well, know about your work experience, and have opinion to what's happening around your location, like Kolkata, and current affairs. I think Delhi people love asking questions with respect to politics and current affairs. You know what's happening in and around with the government a lot, and also ethical dilemma-based questions, right?
Yeah.
Lovely. That's really great. So, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and tips and strategies to crack the MDI interviews with all of us. I'm sure we'll have a lot of people coming in and being your juniors soon.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a lot many aspirants. Would like to onboard them very soon.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Lovely.
we're looking forward to it.